it's a choice that we all make, whether or not we want to just believe that aging and our brain health is inevitable to just die along with us, or we want to choose a life that can provide our brain the greatest possible potential, foundation to live and grow in a positive way, right?
Absolutely. The biggest misconception that most people have, not some people, most people have, and you may have this too, Scott, is this that you gradually decline when you go to your 50s and 60s and 70s, and then you die. That death is the end results of sort of gradual decay. That's not how it works. The things that cause problems are often treatable and manageable. Yes, when you are in your 60s, you don't run as fast as when you were in your 20s, given. However, you should be able to run. You should be able to be active and you should be able to do things. If you have some hearing loss, some vision loss, some aches and pains in your joints, these are all manageable. You can get a pair of glasses, you can get hearing aids, you can take care of things that reduce inflammation, and those wear and tear does not mean you're falling apart or you're dying or it is what it is. You have to be aggressive in managing things that happen with aging and treat them as aggressively as you would treat a headache or a toothache. And if you do that, then you live a full life, maybe 2% decay, maybe 3% slowness in thinking, not 50%, not 80%. And then you live a full life and then you die and get it over with. So death is the switch. It's called programmed cell death. We all have some expiration date. Not us, all species. Monkeys, cockroaches, fish, all living organisms have an expiration date. There's a time that a gene is turned on and it says time to go. And when that gene is turned on, within a year or two or three, maybe people die. So I want you to be very positive about aging and don't let the overall myth that as you get older, you fall apart affect your life. You need to have a full life, be able to walk, talk, travel, impact other people's lives, be productive and influential person in your family, in your community, and do things. Don't say, I hate that. I talked to some of my friends who are in their 50s and 60s. They say, what do you expect? I'm falling apart. It's like, stop it right there.
Right.
No, you need to take care of the little wear and tear, just like the way you change the oil in your car. Every once in a while, you put new tires. If you take care of an old Chevy, a 1960 Chevy, it will run just fine for you if you maintain it just right. And so don't say things like, I'm getting older, I'm falling apart. If you say that to yourself, that's a mindset that makes you accept decline. And the less you do, the more your brain atrophies, the more your brain shrinks. And that becomes a self fulfilling prophecy because you will decline for real, which then proves to yourself that you're declining.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember the first time I needed reading glasses, and there's a little bit of self defeat that goes with something so simple. Where they increased my contact prescription, and then he said, you could still read up close without your contacts in, but once you put your contacts in, you're going to notice you're going to need reading glasses. I was like, no, I'll be fine. And then you end up at a restaurant the first time, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's dark, I can't see. And I think there's a initial thought that goes through your brain where you're like, oh, you're defeated. But then you realize that there is a choice and the defeat is temporary. And I just buy a ton of reading glasses. I put them all over the place so I don't forget them anywhere. And now I just look for the reading glasses. I even pick some that look good or are stylish, and I travel with them and I wear them on my collar most of the time, almost as a statement that I own it. And but it is so funny that you say that because I think the brain is so powerful. And you talk about there's several things somebody can do, and they're in the book, so people can grab the book and learn from it. But what are the is it five things, right? There are five things that you talk about. Let's go over those so that we can go from not only the positive belief, but action.
Yes. So having read, thousands of papers and teach about this, I wanted to establish what are the most important things for you to be able to keep your brain sharp. Because every day there's something in the news. One day there's a supplement that's good, one day about sauna, one day is, going to take cold baths, and every day there's something different. And so what I've done is that I have established, based on the scientific evidence, what I consider to be the five most important pillars of brain health. And these are fitness, optimal sleep, a Mediterranean type nutrition, stress reduction, and brain training. These are the five most important things you can do in order to keep your brain young and resilient.
Those are great. I definitely have I wear a whoop, and I talk about it all the time, but it's funny. One of the number one things I changed, I started wearing this in 2019. It was the first time I had accountability of how good or bad my sleep was. And I think the number one thing that I've done since wearing this in 2019 is I have increased my awareness and my execution of sleeping longer and allowing myself to set that circadian rhythm where I'm a little more dialed in. And I used to stay up late to feel like I owned the day, and now I'm very aware that that sleep is so important. The area I struggle in is not eating processed foods. It's not being active, it's the cortisol, it's the high stress environment. And so I think that's still one area that I can work on personally. So part of the reason I share this with the listeners is we all have a challenge. We all have something that maybe we're doing all the right things in one area, but not all the right things in another. And so there's still room for improvement in all of our lives. And these areas are really valuable, I think. But the older we get, the more it is important that we focus on those five things. Is there an area that you struggle in of the five, or are you dialed into all of them at this point in time?
I feel fortunate to have built a life where things are great now. But I've had my share of stressful situations. I built a successful neurology practice. I am a professor at Johns Hopkins. My book has become a bestseller. So these days, I'm living life to the fullest, and I'm so grateful that things have worked out. But I had my share of very stressful periods and dealing with a lot of financial problems and other problems that fortunately did work out. But these days, I keep thanking God that I have the life I do.
That is, that is so powerful, and I think that that tends to be, something else that I do that the older I get, the better it is, and that is I do surrender a little bit of the things that used to stress me out. I do kinda turn over some of that to God. If I'm gonna accept the blessings, I should also be able to allow for some of the surrender on the big things that maybe are out of my control, and part of that cortisol spike and that awareness and stress is us trying to control things beyond our ability, and that could be very, very challenging in anyone's life, and I think everybody struggles with that. um, but there are some things that people could do that are fairly simple, and I've seen you talk about this. I mean, not eating processed food is a big one, right? What kind Let's talk diet for a second, because I think this is a conversation that's very valuable.
The most important task in order to build a healthy brain is to change your mindset, to realize that lifestyle interventions are simple but powerful. If I injected something to you, and I said, this is a brand new medication that was just discovered and it's $1,000 per vial, you would feel, oh my God, this is going to change my life. Uh, and so the lifestyle interventions are actually more powerful than any drug that can be prescribed. I just gave a lecture at the American Academy of Neurology to 5,000 neurologists in April. 5,000 neurologists. And the point of my lecture as a plenary speaker for the event, was that lifestyle interventions are simple but powerful. So you have to realize that the things we're going to talk about may sound like, that's it? Yes, that's it. And if you don't do it, your brain shrinks. And if you do it, your brain grows. and the benefits you get are way out of proportion to the amount of effort you have to put in. If you accept that, then you're likely to change your lifestyle because a lot of people say, just diet. I don't think so. Well, you don't think so. But if you study the literature, then you see that, yes, that's indeed the case. People who eat highly processed food or trans fats have a smaller brain than people who don't, and it's in proportion to the severity of diet. And the reverse is true. People who eat a healthy diet, such as a Mediterranean diet, tend to have larger, healthier brains. Now, average person doesn't know about published studies and they just think that, eh, a French fries, that's not going to affect my life. But the point is this: when you eat highly processed food or things that are high in trans fats or things that spike your sugar level, you increase the number of these things called amyloid in the brain. See, when the main hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease is these things called amyloid plaques and tau tangles, as well as these other things that can increase inflammation and reduce blood flow. When you have a poor diet and you have obesity, you get both problems. You have more of these Alzheimer's footprints in your brain, and you have more inflammation, and you have less blood flow. So, um, when you're sitting and there's some French fries on a table, if I told you eat this French fries, you die, you will not be tempted. You won't say, that's just a French fries. No, obviously, you're not going to die. However, if you realize, if you appreciate how bad this junk food is, you shouldn't touch it. Just the same way you don't smoke, you should not eat junk food. And you can do it gradually. You can say, okay, I'm going to cut back on French fries and this for 50% for 2 weeks, and then try to do very little for 2 more weeks. And a month from now, no junk food. So if you see donuts and poorly prepared pizza or cookies or chips or things that are clearly junk food, things that come in boxes and bags and have been sitting on shelves for a long time, are high in trans fats. So I don't touch them. You know, well, to be honest with you, sometimes I do. Like, we went for Mother's Day and there was some French fries. I had one, just one. I
One
just wanted
fry.
this
That is
one
impressive.
little fry, and and I don't want to be like, okay, fine, I'll have it. So I think if you appreciate how important diet is, you'll be following a healthy diet much easier.
So YouTube has this cool feature where they pick the next video for you, and it's right here on this screen. So I hope you enjoy this next video.